Like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their right.
Yes.
A right, the right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Let me ask you this question. I would like to ask the AG to propose legislation for what we call small claims court. There are lots of poor people, to an example you just gave, that they have issues with others and sometimes with large firms, but the lawyer fee is greater than the fee you're claiming.
It is their
right. Yes.
A right, the right that someone has. All our rights exist in context.
What is the context of a second medical opinion?
Because you're disrespecting the process.
No.
Jesus, this is common sense, man.
Any situation which you seem to do, you're just dealing with Afro-Guyanese issues. If one, you can't bring and pull the leaders of the African community together, you're failing. And if two, you can't put forward a future, a blueprint, and a plan for African Guyanese, you're failing as well.
Good evening, Mr. Kissoon. Thanks out. Since we started this program 3.5 years, there have been some guests who have been with us from the beginning. We haven't seen two of them lately, so we looked for them to see where they were. Were they with the American army fighting in Iran? Were they in the Ukraine? Were they in China? Wherever. So we ran into them, and so we've asked them to stay with us. And they are with us this evening. They have one thing in common. Both of them founded a political party, a third political party called ANUG. One of them has left ANUG. That's Jonothan Yearwood. One of them is still with ANUG, but I don't know if still with needs to be in inverted commas. But our guest this evening is firstly independent civil society actor Jonothan Yearwood and Dr. Mark France, who I think is still with ANUG. So we go alphabetically. Mark, what's on your mind? We haven't had you guys for a couple months on this program, so what's going on in Guyana?
Good afternoon, good evening, and thank you, Mr. Kissoon. Jonathan, nice having the platform with you once more. Personally, I can say that I have been looking on from the outside. I have taken a bit of a sabbatical from the political arena in terms of being active. That is both social media, in the news, making comments. But I am always a curious onlooker. I always care about what is happening in my country, in the Caribbean, and more so the wider world. And there's lots of things that are happening right now. So I thank you once again for this platform, and I'm glad to share it here with Mr. Yearwood and to share some of my views and what I'm seeing happening and how we can do things a bit differently in Guyana and the wider world. Thank you.
Jonathan, where have you been, man? You've always a recurring face in this program. You've been to what? China? Portugal, where the Portuguese came from?
Hi, good evening, fellow viewers. Always nice to be back on the Freddie Kissoon show. Freddie, thank you for inviting me here this afternoon. Where I've been in Guyana. I don't go anywhere. I just love my country. I just be here all the while. Major things that are happening not only in Guyana but around the world, and things happening that are affecting Guyana and every single Guyanese. The war, Israel and America versus Iran, the Cuban blockade by America. How will these things affect Guyana? That's what I would like to talk about tonight. Thank you.
Jonathan? Well, let's go back to Mark. What is the first thing on your mind that you would like to speak to our viewers about, Mark?
Well, given the fact that I'm in healthcare, given the fact that I am Cuban trained, I spent 7 long years in Cuba, I'd like to start with Cuba. And we all know that Guyana and Cuba has had long-standing agreements, almost 50 years of official agreements between the two countries. And I must say that we, the Guyanese people and the Guyanese public, we have benefited tremendously from the Cuban government, the Cuban citizens, and their ability to offer the little that they have had to Guyana and more so Latin America and the wider world. I always begin with, where would the healthcare system in Guyana be if it were not for Cuba from the 80s when they started getting scholarships to the big batch in 2006. I was part of that batch. 300 odd doctors we have formed, and currently in the Guyanese system, where we have about 2,000 registered medical practitioners, over half of those, or even 2/3 of those, are Cuban trained or Cuban related. So the entire healthcare system, looking at doctors, we the Guyanese citizens must say thank you to the Cuban government and the Cuban people. But more so, we have seen during the last couple of years that a lot of Cuban workers, expats, have come across here in Guyana, especially in the healthcare system. Nurses, laboratories, and the other allied healthcare staff. And they have given a whole lot to Guyana. Now, politics is politics, and world politics tend to point some in a direction. But we must be very careful in terms of how we shape our bilateral agreements. And so recently we have seen a change in the understanding between the government of Guyana and that of Cuba. And you can put it how you want to put it, that, oh, the Cuban pulled back their brigade, or the government of Guyana were forced to tell them that they cannot continue because the long arm of the US is down on the Caribbean countries, on the Latin American countries with regard to Cuban workers. But there are different ways of doing things, and the manner in which it was done, I am not satisfied. I think that we could have looked at other ways and means whereby we could have changed the agreement, but do so in a more meaningful manner, given that we have this history, almost 50 years of working with Cuba. Now, a couple of days ago, we saw the recent CELAC. CELAC is the community that looks at Latin America and the Caribbean, speaking about the situation in Cuba. I can tell you, Mr. Kissoon, personally, I have friends. I have someone who I call my mom, who almost every day messages me and tells me about the difficulties in Cuba. And it is horrible right now. They're without electricity. They're without the basic necessities for medicines. If you're sick, you can't even get a painkiller. They cannot have the ability to store any type of food. You're going back to the system whereby you do not have refrigeration. Now, why is this happening? This is happening because the US government is looking for a change in regime or a change in government in Cuba. But Cuba is not the only place. We saw what happened to Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, and as a result of that, the ability to get petroleum to Cuba has been cut off. But even so, the countries that were dealing with Cuba Mexico, Russia, and some other countries supplying fuel. The Trump government, and more so being pushed by none other than the Secretary General Marco Rubio,
Secretary of State.
Secretary of State rather.
Yeah, who's Cuban, right?
Who has Cuban parentage.
Yeah.
He is pushing for a change of regime or a change of government in Cuba, and so that everyone now is forced to toe the line of the U.S. government. None more so than our government who is currently in place here, because we saw a meeting with some select countries, 2 Caribbean countries in particular were there, Trinidad and Guyana. It was the SHIELD Summit. And we were basically towing the line of whatever was put in front of us. Now, we know that Guyana has to protect its sovereignty. We know that Guyana has to protect its investments, and we have huge investments with the US government and their transnational companies. For example, the consortium led by ExxonMobil in the oil and gas field. But at what cost? At the cost of forcing people to suffer. I don't think that is fair. I know we have gone through a whole lot of suffering here in Guyana in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And why is it in this 21st century we are forcing this on the next nation by virtue of being part of this agreement?
Jonathan, what is on your mind? What is on your mind?
You know, Mark, I grew up and I always had a saying told to me: when your hand in tiger mouth, you got patty head. And right now, Guyana's government hand in the American government mouth. So we got to pat the American government head. Unfortunately, the American government is now led by a man called Donald Trump, a man who doesn't seem to care about anything other than his own personal well-being. He doesn't care. He has this Secretary of State, Marcus Rubio, who wants to be publicly declared he wants to be president of Cuba. He says his parents ran out of Cuba after Fidel Castro, which is a proven lie, because his parents left in the 50s before Fidel Castro came into power in 1960. 1960. Which is, Rubio is a liar. Donald Trump is a proven liar.
But was he born in Cuba? I don't think he was born in Cuba.
He was born in Cuba.
The other one wasn't born in Cuba.
Yeah.
The Senator.
Ted Cruz.
Yeah, he was born in Canada.
But what I'm saying is, you don't like the system of government by a country. So you're going to punish and kill all the people within that country just because you don't like their government? That, to me, is the beginning of a genocide that you want to create. You want to commit a genocide against the Cuban people. As Mark said, they don't even have electricity. So you got to go and buy food every single day. You have no ability to store food. You, as he says, people are starving now in Cuba. What are you doing? You're going to kill these people just because you don't like their government? Well, they're doing it in Iran as well. They don't like the Iranian government, so they're bombing Iran as well. For what? To please Benjamin Netanyahu, who may be dead? We don't know. But why are we now getting involved in this? As Mark says, and I quietly agree, Cuba has been our friend for many, many, many years. Since back in Burnham days, we have been friends with Cuba.
Correction, decades.
Well, decades. Why are we now at this point in time turning our back against the Cuban people? What is going to happen to the Guyanese healthcare system? Which Guyanese doctors? First of all, where are we going to train our Guyanese doctors now? Are we going to the States? Is the States going to give us scholarships?
1,000 scholarships for doctors
per year? I really don't see that happening. Are the Guyanese doctors going to go to American doctors that come? Are they going to go to Maburumo? Are they going to Crabwood Creek? Are they going to go to Lethem to help our healthcare system? Or are they just going to sit in an office if they come at all? I don't see them coming. I don't see any American doctor coming to live and work in Guyana for a year or 2-year term, the way the Cubans have done it. So how Guyana healthcare is going to take a terrible lash with this involvement, with this situation that is happening here. I understand our government has to pat the tiger's head, And but as Mark says, there are other ways that it could have been dealt with, that could be done where we could still have the Cuban personnel coming to look after our healthcare system in Guyana.
Well, let me ask both of you before Quet comes in. The Guyana in the global south doesn't have a special problem that Jamaica, Lesotho, Malaysia, you call a country in the global south. We are a million people with about 5,000 personnel in the army, as against one of the largest army in South America. Isn't that Venezuelan thing really the sword of Damocles, that it doesn't allow Guyana any leeway? I believe if the Guyana government only at an infinitesimal level ruffles the feather of the US will lose any Venezuelan government after Maduro on Guyana. They would have no scruples.
What has stopped them from losing them since 1966? There is bravado and then there is action. And you know who is showing the action now which we don't like? Israel in Gaza, Israel in Lebanon, the US and Israel in Iran, and the other countries around there. Did Venezuela ever come across here? No. What has Brazil as the superpower in the South American bloc has always said with regard to their partnership with Guyana? They're not going to allow anything.
You know, Freddie, something a lot of people don't understand. The 1899 award that gave Essequibo to Guyana, Venezuela can jump up and say it's null and void, whatever. But that award also gave Roraima to Brazil. It also demarcated the boundary between Venezuela, Guyana, and Brazil. So if you're going to tear up that award, you're also tearing up the boundary with Brazil. You're not just tearing up the boundary with Guyana, you're tearing up the boundary with Brazil. So you think Brazil is going to sit back and accept that?
So both of you are saying that Guyana, despite the border claim that Venezuela would not relinquish, we got room to maneuver?
We do.
Of course we do.
Right? And there is only one thing that the US and the transnational companies are interested in. And Trump was very clear when he took out Nicolas Maduro. We're here for your oil.
That's it.
We're here for the contracts to rebuild your country. We're here to give back ExxonMobil and the other company that was there. I think it was the other big one, the one Chevron, to give back them their monies that was taken from them by the government then.
Yeah.
Chavez, yes, $8 billion worth, which is probably worth what, $20 billion more. That is what they're looking after. That's what they're going for. The same thing in Iran. They're going for oil. We're going to touch the island of Karg and all the military facilities there, but not the oil.
Let's bring in a man from China.
The man is always late.
You guys have said that Guyana relationship with Cuba has changed. What has Guyana done that caused you to conclude that our relationship is changing or has changed and all of that? You're speaking as though it's a past tense, it's a done deal. Why?
Well,
what have we done?
Well, the Cuban government is withdrawing their brigade of medical staff here in Guyana because the Guyana government has tried to change the payment system through which Cuba would be paid for their medical staff at the behest of the US government. So that relationship has obviously changed. It is no longer we pay the Cuban government for their medical staff here. The alternative was we pay the Cubans directly. But the Cubans don't come here directly. They don't come here as individuals. They come here as part and parcel of a Cuban government initiative. So that relationship has now changed. They're no longer coming here as part of a brigade sent by the Cuban government.
And that denominates to mean that our entire diplomatic relationship with Cuba has changed? That's what you
No one said our entire diplomatic relationship, but that is the start. That is the start of something which is different. And that is something that we have had the understanding for over 30, 40 years, whereby these missions and persons will come and help, and then we get scholarships. Now, would we expect the same from the Cuban government? No. Will they be offering the same? Especially when you see us cozying up ourselves and the Kamala Besessar-led government in Trinidad to the United States? Of course not.
What do you think about the argument that when you pay a third party directly for somebody's services and you move them across border is a form of trafficking? In that, the US has always argued for years now that when people are moved into the country, let's say they come to Guyana, it don't happen specifically in Guyana or of recent it has not been happening. Your passport is withheld and your movement in the country is controlled, and that is the equivalent of is a glorified way of trafficking in persons. What's your view on that?
I bring the other example that you neglect or are neglected and the world neglects all the time. We had the recent World Cup in which country? The Football World Cup.
Yeah.
Qatar.
In Qatar.
Yeah.
Right? The Qatar, the UAE, and those countries that have a lot of expats coming from Southeast Asia especially, where their passports are held directly by those persons who are taking them. Have you seen the US make any noise about the situation there? The Cubans have more leeway than those workers. The Cubans live in a better system in these Western countries that they come and offer their services than those workers are almost...
Those South Asian laborers are like slaves in Qatar.
That's what I'm saying. They're almost like slaves. The comparison is nothing. We, the Guyanese government, the Guyanese people, we don't hold the passports of any Cuban and stop them from doing as they're supposed to. They knowingly sign on to an agreement. The option to go on a mission is always better financially for the workers than what they're earning at home. That is a given fact. Even if it's 20, 30, 40% of the salary that is being paid. Now, when you go and study in Cuba, it's free all the way. You can get, we say, and I saw an argument was about, oh, someone is a third degree specialist. A third degree specialist, someone who has finished their studies, done a master's, done a fellowship, and then done something else. You having the glorified doctors coming here. Those are the type of people that are coming here. Of course, it costs the Cuban government and the Cuban economy to train those persons. You cannot lose them on a free. Yes, we have to have respect for the rights of human beings to earn a fair source of income, to have free movement. They have lived in this system. They know when they go on a mission for 3 years, this is what they're getting. For them, it is making a difference. And that is why they sign on to it. You have the choice to stay in Cuba, earn a much more meager salary, and not sign on to an agreement to go on a mission. That is the choice that you have. We don't go questioning when similar things happen in the UAE, in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia. But when it happens in Cuba and it happens in the countries where they're going, we question it differently.
So let me go back to this.
Yeah.
Fidel Castro overthrew the Batista government in Cuba
in 1959.
1959. He took over government on the
July
1959.
1959.
On the 4th of, he entered Havana, I think it was the 4th of January 1960. 1959, 1960. Batista was a corrupt American puppet government. Absolute corruption. Absolute corruption. It was a mafia's play field. The American government play field where all the hot shots and the executives and the millionaires went to play. Yeah, where they went to play. Now, America didn't like that. The American money makers didn't like that because Castro was a socialist, he was a communist, he put a stop to that. So for 66 years, you have tried your best to get rid of this government, and you have failed drastically. You have failed drastically. The Americans have good relations with Russia, They have good relations with China. Trump has established good relations with North Korea.
Stop there.
Hold on.
United States have good relations with countries that are a billion times
Worse than Cuba.
more. You know what's those Gulf
Exactly.
states? You know what's those sultanates and the Persian Gulf?
Exactly.
You know what's Saudi Arabia?
Exactly. They're dictatorship.
But hold this.
But they do nothing. They embrace
you're
them.
talking, there is something that is parallel to what you're saying of Batista into Castro and so on, which is the Monroe Doctrine. And the Monroe Doctrine does not take into consideration Middle East. So let's assume that the same concern that the US has for countries in this hemisphere, they will give it a pass in a country in another
Alright.
hemisphere.
Alright, you bring
Take
up-
that into
You
consideration.
bring up the
Yes.
Monroe Doctrine, which is catering for the Americas, North America, South America, Central America.
Mm-hmm.
Which country in those three regions, North, Central, and South America, that America, through the Monroe Doctrine, has created regime change and has come out better for it? Forced regime change and has come out better for it.
Go ahead.
I can't think of any.
Go
None.
ahead.
Each one of them has ended up in a dictatorship that has ended up worse, killing more people, more citizens of that country than they were before. They ended up in a worse situation. Monroe document does not work for the people of the countries that they want to create regime change for. They want to put their own puppets in power so they can do whatever they want to do. They want to continue the banana republics where their capitalist companies can go and exploit the country's natural resources without any benefits to the country.
All right. I want you to look at this angle too.
Uh-huh.
Hasn't America been immensely good to Guyana and immensely good to the PPP, whose government is in power today? For example, if it wasn't for the Americans, the negotiation that allowed Hoyt to postpone elections for 2 years and have free and fair elections so that Dr. Jagan could come to office and all of that. Do you discount gratitude the PNC might have for taking the holistic things?
I like where you're taking it with your red shirt and bringing the PPP into it. Because
You cannot leave out the entirety of the analysis that you're making.
That's okay. I get that.
No, but
what I would have loved
if they were nice
today,
to Guyana,
if it was
they have
possible,
to continue to be nice and not force Guyana to do bad things.
what I would like,
If I'm nice to you,
I would have
if
loved.
I'm nice to you, I would not encourage you to go and steal your employer's
You
thing.
know about bad things in whose view?
I would have loved it if it was Dr. Chetty Jagan in the red shirt sitting there today, knowing that close relationship that the PPPC and the Cuban Communist Party
Had.
in particular had, whereby many, and that is why someone who I respect a whole lot, past President Donald Ramotar,
Ramotar.
who has always been one of the few. I see Mr. Rohi also is along the line to hold that view and that comradeship with those persons who have that history of the close relationship that the PPP had with Cuba. And he's not afraid to call him out. I say because he has
But remember,
nothing to
he's
lose,
not the leader of the country.
right? So
He can say-
he's
he
able
can
to
say
say
anything.
but
He can
say anything.
I'm coming there.
Listen to the point.
Now, what
In all of that,
what has
nobody
Guyana?
in Cuba assisted Dr. Jagan to get back into power more than the Americans did.
Stop a moment.
But
So
who
what-
has
what-
Go
what-
ahead.
benefited?
I'm not making a value judgment. I'm asking you to take it into
Who has
consideration.
benefited the most from this relationship? The Americans and their companies.
Okay.
The Americans, the Canadians, the EU countries, they have benefited the most. Look at the ones who took our gold out.
But why
Look
you
at the
go? Why
ones
you
who took
going to
our bauxite out.
1992?
Look at the ones
the
who now
Americans
taking
overthrew
our
Jagan
oil
in
out.
1962
Yeah.
and 64.
Yeah.
So maybe
The
they
CIA
owned Guyana. They owned Guyana in 1992.
So they're just
Freddie,
making
let the
up.
man
They're
defend
just make-
what
they're
you really
just
got
making
to
up
say,
fake-
no,
no.
man.
But what I'm saying is that when you look at it, the ones who have benefited the most, it's not the Guyanese people, Leno. It is the transnationals and those big companies from the EU, ABC, and America, Canada, and the EU countries. Those are the people who have benefited. Look, I come back to the healthcare system and the 1,000 doctors that were formed from 2006 to 2013. You know that over a third of those doctors are now currently in the United States. The United States have raped us of our Cuban trained doctors. We have a third of them that are in the United States.
They've taken a lot of our educated people out of there.
Why you say they have taken?
Well, after you
Our
serve
people-
your 5 year, you have the chance to go away. If our government would have been doing better in terms of salaries, remunerations and stuff, we probably would have stayed here, security and having a good
Yeah,
life,
but
be
now
able
you
to
can't
walk
blame
freely.
the US
No,
for
you
that,
have to
can
blame
you?
them
You
because
say
if
the US
they're
is
going to
good to
compare
us.
that they're doing so much for us, they should have been the ones giving us 2,000 scholarships to train doctors in American universities, and nobody can bring the nonsense about HES, the arrangement with HES and Mount Sinai and these other places that are actually not doing anything proper for Guyana. Right? That is just a big facade. And you know what? We're paying for that in cost oil. So it's not like we're getting anything free
I
from
don't
them.
know what he means when he says that America has been good to Guyana. In what way?
No.
What way? Because let me
pointed
tell you,
out
hold on. When Bonham nationalized a lot of these foreign companies, each one of them turned around and condemned us. They stopped the bauxite. They stopped buying the bauxite. Sugar went down the drain a lot. A lot of things that were nationalized by them, those companies abroad stopped helping Guyana, and they said, well, you depend on your own now. Too bad. They never turned and helped us. So as far as I'm concerned, we received little or no help from them. You talk about the American government in 1992. That wasn't the American government. That was Jimmy Carter
Yeah,
with the
man,
Carter
but-
Center.
Yeah,
That's
Carter
not-
Center.
no,
If you
Carter-
don't believe that
no,
Carter,
Carter
Center's
Center is not-
activities were sanctioned by
It might
the
have
US
been-
State
it-
Department,
it might
then
have been-
something
But
Sanctions-
there's a nuance there.
It might
There's a
have been
nuance
sanctioned by
there.
them, but it is not
He
the
may
American
not have been
government.
acting. He may not have been acting
On behalf of the American
of the
government.
government.
Jimmy
But-
Carter was never acting on behalf of the American government after he left the
White
US
House.
presidency. He created the Carter Center to help countries like ours to get better. And it worked. It worked through Jimmy Carter, not through the American government.
Now, I may have a soft spot for Cuba because my training was in Cuba.
Your wife is Cuban? May
Right?
I ask? Your wife is Cuban?
I don't have a wife, but yeah, no, I'm not Cuban. But
But you had
I
Cuban
do
girlfriends,
have a lot, as I mentioned, I do
You are
have
bossy,
a
man.
lot of
and he got a money in
close
Cuba.
kinship. And as I said, someone who I consider my mother who is in Cuba and
Oh,
she's
not
suffering.
your biological mother.
Not my biological mother.
But
You know when you go
woman is
overseas,
elderly woman in Cuba who
you
look
know
after
them
you.
girls. You know when you go overseas, you find a family,
what was your
someone who will
girlfriends in
help you,
Cuba?
someone.
How are they doing?
I never had any girlfriends in Cuba, but I do have many female friends who studied same time with me, and those who are not there are enjoying life afield, and those who are there are suffering as much as possible. But yes,
But bring some of them over to Guyana, man.
How they coming? How they coming?
He will sponsor them.
many came. Like for example, I know my brother. He has some of his batchmates. He did engineering that are here working along with him in the Guyanese system. But you should not have to punish a whole nation as is happening now, and that is the humanistic aspect from where I was formed. My ability to relate to the human being at that level, and I cannot support any government, any regime that allows for such. And sadly, our Guyanese government in the cooperation with the United States is allowing that to happen.
Yeah.
But you're disappointed, Guyana, though, when you join up with WIN. People didn't expect that
No.
of you.
Let's come to WIN, because I know you want
No,
to get
just
to
as I
WIN.
go on, Jonathan.
I will
That's just.
I will sit out
aside.
with that one.
No.
There's another question. Another question.
No, but I
Just
can
another
tell you
question.
the
But you
effect,
guys are free to say
the
anything you want
effect
to say.
of what WIN has done is being felt. There is a change in Guyanese politics. It has forced the PNC, or APNU that they call themselves now, to try to be better.
But you say
and you see the work there that
You
they're
say you
doing
took
now.
a sabbatical from politics. Why? The last person who took a sabbatical from politics said it was a 7-year sabbatical. It didn't last a year.
No, here why.
James Bond.
Here why. If I come out and I criticize all that is bad in the people are going to say Dr. Franz is just a critic. And I don't do that. I give Jack his jacket when it's due. And similarly, if I come out and criticize WIN and those newbies in politics for every mistake that they make. It will not help third-party politics in Guyana. And I can tell you, Mr. Kissoon, in the last 4 months, I have seen so much more from WIN than I have seen in the last 5 years from the opposition. But the caveat is this.
General Secretary.
Criticizing is one thing. And WIN is good because they have connections on the ground, they have connection to the people, and they're highlighting and criticizing all of the issues. Where you need to make an impact is putting forward alternative solutions. Solutions based on real life, not enough. Not enough.
Okay.
Putting forward real life solutions whereby these are the monies that are being spent in this area, these are the monies that are being wasted, this is what can be saved, and it can go into this program. We can set up this policy, we can look at this macroeconomic picture, how we're looking at it on global scale, how we're looking at it on the Caribbean scale.
But why you took a sabbatical from politics?
I took a sabbatical because of the agreement that ANUG and WIN had, and they didn't stick to it. And because my ANUG chose to continue with that partnership, I could not
So
apply
is it possible you may form another party?
No. I think I can do a lot more with an independent voice, but you cannot criticize WIN
But
and kill
Jonathan
them
is
in their
independent voice.
infant.
Y'all need to work together.
Jonathan got a lot of time. Jonathan lost a recent election, and so more of his time he can dedicate to
Don't believe I have a
criticizing.
lot of time.
I see Jonathan is very vocal against what the US and Israel is doing in Iraq.
No, he's
and
always
the
been
Middle
like that.
East.
He's always.
Right? And I totally support him. But
he's
yes, I don't want to be closed in terms of what I can say, how I can express myself when I choose to do it.
But why the two of you don't try to resurrect ANUG? He was a founding member of ANUG. Jonathan?
ANUG has a skeleton executive committee that is preparing for internal elections sometime later on this year, and then they will probably.
I must tell the
kick off.
viewers before Craig and Jonathan come in. Your acting general secretary refused to be on this program with you.
Maybe y'all got a personal beef.
And no,
Who is
he
the
happens to
acting
beef with me.
secretary?
I asked
The
him,
acting chair.
the acting chair
Okay.
refused to be on this program with you.
He said Mr.
And I
Sabine.
think, Mr.
Okay.
Sabine, I think he said other executive members would not be on this program with you. So are you persona non grata in?
Well,
ANUG?
I have not heard that. I had
Yeah,
a
he told me that.
conversation.
And I told him I will
I
make
had a
that public.
conversation with
I told-
Jonathan up to like 2 days ago, and we were all good. He's like, Mark.
So he would
we-
come on this program with you?
Well, I never said he would come on this program. He may have a problem with you, Mr. Kissoon, and I know he has refused to come on your program a number of times before.
Well, the last time he came on the program, he was on the program.
He was on the program.
We
I
haven't
know.
invited
but
him since then.
I know you had some
We haven't
issues
invi-
where you were trying to get him on the show and he didn't. But that
But I
is
know
not
I
important.
invited him to be on a panel with you, and he said the executive don't want to be on a panel with you.
That's
He said
okay.
that.
Well, if
I
that is the word, I have no problem with it.
I will speak to-
personally.
and I
Mr.
told him I
Sobrian-
will make that public.
Mr.
I told him
Sobrian
I will
is,
make.
I consider him a friend.
I told
Just
him.
like I consider Jonathan a friend, I consider other persons who I have been on various executives. Kian, I think today is his birthday. Happy birthday, Kian. Yeah, I still have good relationships in ANUG. I have good relationships with
But
even
you
persons
took-
who are very
but you took a
critical of
sub-
me
but you-
in the PBB.
Why would you be
And
into politics?
in the PNC.
Why would you be into politics? Rise to the position of acting general secretary and then
Take a sabbatical?
refuse to talk to other politicians.
Yes, Sabayan I told Sabayan I will quote him.
That makes little or no sense. Politics is the art of negotiation. And if you can't negotiate and sit down and talk with somebody that you may even dislike immensely over politics, and you can share various ideas, you shouldn't be in politics.
Well,
I would dare say, based on what Jonathan has just said, that I think the opposition parties will remain in opposition for a little while, because I don't think they understand how to use the media, and the media these days drive more than half of what you do. You talk about WIN, and we all can attribute media, especially social media, to the rise of WIN. And I don't think the opposition appreciate that enough. Government has so many platforms: DPI, Chronicle, NCN,
Leonard, correct.
You sure?
And,
You sure you want to go there?
No. The point I'm making is this.
What's
Hold
wrong with you?
on. The point I'm making is this. Is that the government has so many platforms available to it
To push their work.
to push what their message, whatever it is
yeah.
and whatever you believe it is.
Even though it's wrongly used.
No. That is not the point here.
No, I get
That's
it.
not the point here.
I saw.
He's just saying there are many platforms
They,
to get
they have
their
many
word out.
platforms.
The CEO,
but
I think it
hold
is,
on, let me finish the point.
yeah.
But the opposition has very few platforms. And they do things like that. They are unwilling to share platform with somebody because the person got a different view or the person has made a decision. And they are boxing themselves in to a narrow platform.
I agree.
And this comment is not what is wrongly used and right.
No. I'm coming here.
I'm talking
I
about the
agree.
media in general.
I agree.
You an exception. I'm sure you will come on any platform.
I can go on any
You
platform, speak
what
with
is
any
your
person.
viewership? Your average viewership? 40,000, 50,000,
No, it's higher than
100,000,
no, it's higher than that.
100,000?
No.
Depends on the guest, but
depends on the
average
guest, yes.
around 60.
And the
Okay,
conversation.
60,000 people
Yeah.
watch your show every
And
On
sometimes
Facebook
so-
alone,
So
yeah.
hold on. So who is a nonsensical politician that would refuse to come on your show? So and given the opportunity to spread their message to 60,000 people watching
But
you.
I can stop you there.
That don't make
because
sense.
I have spoken with Mr. Kissoon, and there are many nonsensical, if that's your terminology, politicians from both sides of the divide. Some from the government side who ran from the show because they don't want to answer the tough questions, and some from the opposition who think that Mr. Kissoon is too closely related or sides too much with the PPP. Now, if you're any politician who's worth their grain of salt, you would have no issue defending whatever position you take, whether it's pro-government, whether it's anti-government, or whether it's in the middle. And that is what I want,
No,
Guyana, and that is what I want
But
young people.
all two of you have to understand that there is a psychological concept in Guyanese politics that may not exist elsewhere. I think because of the evolution of our politics, Burnham, Jagan, Rodney, very towering figures, these subordinates or these second tiers or even the first tier below the leader, they're unsure of whether they should go to the media and what the leader may think. And they have that at the back of their head. Suppose I make a mistake, I gone, the man and chop me down. I think they have to get rid of that fear.
So
there's a fear of the leader.
So what you were saying is each political party in Guyana is a dictatorship.
You got to toe the line.
You got to toe the line. It's a dictatorship. You
That-
got to please the leaders.
That is
Which
what
don't make sense.
I want to change,
Which
and
don't
that
make
is something that
I
I
could
know
tell you,
Jonathan.
I could tell you in my experience, both parties, PNC and PPP, they have told me that they have to consult higher up before they come on the show.
So nothing,
high up.
Even a minister.
nothing is wrong with
even a minister.
consulting
A few ministers,
higher up.
yeah.
But I believe that any organization, whether it's a political party or business, if you have your framework that is established, if you have your policies that are established, if you have your protocols that are established, and you are training, you're doing succession planning, you're looking at your leader, you're looking at the next person who's coming behind you, everybody should be au fait with that which the party is ready to speak about. Yes, not everyone will be able to do so at the same level. Not everyone will be able to argue the point similarly. You put our vice president on the podium. You put our president on the podium. It's a different level when you listen to, say, for example, our MP, Pandit Suresh from Enterprise. You hear the difference in the conversation level. And so, yes, everybody may not be able to voice the policies the same way.
Yeah,
but
Mark,
you must know, and this is it for young people. I
Let's
want to
say
change.
Jonathan was upset.
I
was
want to
quiet for
change.
some time.
Mark,
I want
hold
to
a second.
change young people's view of politics.
But
in
you can't
Guyana.
do this for a
Right?
sabbatical from politics.
And-
But hold a
no,
second, Mark. Hold a second. You're saying that
Oh, you could do the
you're saying that
sabbatical.
the people below the president and the vice president and whatever else don't have the ability to talk the way they talk. But I'm saying if you're a minister, you should be able to go on any program and defend your ministry's policies, the work that your ministry is doing to the Guyanese population. You should be able to do that eloquently as well. Because to be a minister, you should be educated. To be educated, you should be able to put forward your ideas coherently so people can understand what you're saying. If you as a minister cannot go publicly and have a discourse to defend your own policies, you don't deserve to be a minister.
Eloquently may not come with each individual, and some people on the ground. Take for example my Berbice minister, Mr. Zulfikar. Right? We know he's not the most educated. We know he's not the best orator in terms of speaking about
But he
policies
can put
and
his
stuff.
ideas over.
But you must be able to put your ideas over. And this
Exactly.
is why when I listen to the last parliamentary debates, I pay attention to everything and everyone. When you look, I think it was one of the PPP new ministers, Miss Mishka White, I think is her last name.
She's a parliamentary secretary, not a
Yes.
minister.
That was class. When you listen to some of the newer parliamentarians, that were class. Of course, you're gonna get some of the little boys, Stephen and them boys, gonna come and try to bluff their way, right? But you have to be
Who's
prepared.
Stephen? Oh, Stephen Jacob.
Yeah, you have to be prepared
Suppose the man sue you.
because he was bluffing his way. You can go and look at the tapes. I can take him down
Let's
anything.
we offer a disclaimer.
The man is me friend, man.
He is,
Why do you think that the man
Look, listen,
was
listen,
bluffing?
I'm looking at the camera.
because
We have
you
offered
go
the
back- I was
disclaimer.
listening,
We don't accept
listening.
what Dr. Fan said about
I was
Minister Jacob.
listening to each
That's
and
a
every
disclaimer.
one. I was looking at
We don't
substance. I
accept
was
that.
looking at presentation. I was looking at who was able to defend actual policies that were there in their manifesto and speak on those issues.
And you don't think
And other than, you know what
Jacobs did
was
that?
done
You don't think?
is a lot of regurgitation of the same thing that would have been spoken by seniors. And yes, you have your right. I saw them on the political platform. They have the right to do such, and maybe that is where you learn what you've learned. But a proper opposition parliamentarian could have pulled his discourse apart. And that is what I want to see from the opposition. And that is why I had to give Win a chance. I had to give Miss Primus a chance to come on the floor and showcase something that nobody expected from her.
no, that can't be true.
But maybe you expected that
Primus
level.
is a stand-up comedian for how many years?
And that is what
you
people
wouldn't
that is what
expect
people were
of-
expecting.
Give
People
him
were
a chance. Give him a chance,
expecting
Dr. Fan.
people were expecting a comedian to speak.
Give him a
But
chance,
Miss
Dr.
Primus was first class. Not all of the opposition parliamentarians were at that level, sadly.
No, what I got from Odessa is exactly what
You
I
expected.
expected.
No.
Because she was
I-
accustomed to speaking publicly.
Yeah, and you didn't expect anything else. You expect her to say a couple of things, make a joke. A good thing that stand-up comedians do is able to ad-lib, just look at you and make a joke off of you. And she did all of that.
That's
And
control.
so to me, that was expected. What was my disappointment though was some of the young people who, and I think I wrote it in one of my
Columns on Monday.
one of my columns, that we probably in the schools got to go back. In my days in school, we had what you call elocution competition and debating competition, two separate things. One that pays attention to how you speak, your intonation, this and that, and your debating is a little more persuasive, thing. And I think the schools just got to go back to, because young people in their 20s and early 30s just couldn't deliver, and it was cringeworthy in my book. Very, very cringeworthy.
I just want
Can you
to
say? Can you say?
I just want to issue another disclaimer in relation to the Minister Stephen Jacob bluffing. That's a disclaimer. We don't
You don't believe he
accept
was
that.
bluffing?
But Freddie,
We don't
Freddie,
accept.
according to Leonard, the young people today are no longer capable of discoursing properly or eloquently because of lack of elocution, lack of debates in schools and whatever. Wouldn't you cast that blame at the former minister of education? She's been in charge of the Ministry of Education for how long? She had it before the first 19 under Ramataro. She had it under, and she lost it under APNU. Now she's back. She went back under Ali's first term, and I mean, those are the children that have grown up. And as you rightly say, a lot of them can no longer, or never had the ability to speak eloquently. They had the ability to put up forward their ideas.
I think he's right. This
progressively.
guy's right.
So-
you need to start back those
Yeah,
competitions.
we do need to do it.
And
What I'm saying,
you
we
should
do
have
need
good
to say-
prizes. You
we
should
do
have
need
some
it.
seriously good prizes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we do need it.
Like,
But I'm saying we need to put the blame where it demolished first. Where was it demolished first of all?
What you're trying to do is to apportion blame. That is not
To
where
one
I'm
person.
going.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When I went
I
to school,
believe it's the society as a whole has
You
shifted
just said-
our focus.
you
and not-
just said,
Mhm.
you just said that when you were at school, you had elocution and you had debates. Me too. But guess what? Did that continue after 1992? Did it?
Yeah, debating competitions continue in schools, but I don't think.
This word,
I
man,
don't
Ravin,
think
Dr.
it was-
Ravin,
They that.
They
had a nationwide
continue.
competition with that.
They continue having it, but I don't think it was the
Emphasized in
level of
schools?
intensity, the level of motivation by the children to participate.
So,
And or probably not enough motivation by the teachers to conduct the program.
no, you got to go to the
So
top.
it- it-
You got to put
you
the
know.
top.
But,
If the top is not putting emphasis
So
on
what I
it,
want
when-
to ask both of you, starting alphabetically, what is it? I asked you in the program start, what is on your mind? The first, and you gave me it. What is the first thing on your mind in terms of what you would like to see? Just name one right now in your country, starting with France.
happening in Guyana.
No, what is it you would like to see happen? What like you would like to tell the government, or you would like to tell the country, I want this, I would like to see this. Starting with the Cuban man.
I'm not a Cuban guy, but yes.
But you're partly Cuban.
What I've always been about is fixing systems. I don't believe that one person should dictate anything that happens. And so the government has made efforts, is making efforts. We have a whole new ministry now that is looking at fixing systems and the issues that are affecting systems. But when you look at the issues that people face, the pensioner getting his or her money, right now the hula is about the cash grant. And who's getting it, whether it's too late, whether it was promised before, whether it's supposed to be 200,000 per family household, whether the board said 200 per each individual over 18, right? The bread and butter issue right now is that people are still suffering in this country that has one of the highest GDP per capita, top 10 in the world when you look at it just numerically, right? Our people are not seeing those monies enough. We must find better ways and means of filtering down this money to the average Joe so that he can live better, so that the pensioner can live better. When you look at those companies who are making the profits, it's not the Guyanese people.
System
Let him finish, please.
to do that?
Let him finish and then you
More of our monies that are being
What
wasted
system you
in
use?
infrastructure should come down to the man and woman in the street,
All right, I'll circle back to that.
right?
I'm glad you
And
raised
it,
the instruct-
it comes
the-
in
the
remuneration, it
infrastructure
comes
thing.
in
Yeah,
social
but
services
you're not
and other things.
outlining
All
for
right.
me what system you
no,
will
no,
use.
but let. He said what the change he would like. What change you remember? Our time is going.
The
What
change
cha-
I would like to see, and I think it stems, and the present system that we have creates all of the problems we have in Guyana. Our political electoral system has a system in which you vote for a political party, you vote for a list. I always want to believe that we need to change this system. We need to have two races. One, a direct presidential race. Person A versus person B versus person C, whatever. Whoever wins 50% of the vote becomes president and vice president. They have a team, president and vice president. Then we have 65 constituents, where people living within that constituent elect the person that goes to parliament to represent them in parliament, so that any issues arriving in constituent A or constituent B can be dealt with directly in parliament by that person. If that person doesn't represent them proper, next 5 years we vote them out, bring in somebody else. Now what happens is you have a president who runs the country, forms his own cabinet, forms whatever you would like to form, his ministers, whatever, and they report directly to parliament. The parliamentarians don't have to kiss the backside of the president.
Watch it.
That's why I use that word.
Okay.
They don't have to do that. They don't have to toe the president's line, or else you're no longer a member of this party. You can't progress up the ladder in this party. You are representing the people that elected you. And that's what we need to go back to. Under the previous first past the post situation we had, It was the members of parliament who elected the prime minister. I don't want to go back to that. I want to have a separate race, a presidential race, where the president is elected from the population of Guyana. That's the PR. The president is elected through PR to the president's office and his team through that. And then we have the first past the post for the constituents. If you look at our NDCs, a lot of our NDCs don't function because they are appointed by political parties who dictate that yes, you become this and you don't have to function. You do whatever you want to do and nothing gets done. A lot of our NDCs are in that position. They don't function because of the political, oh, I'm a member of the political party, I will get this back if I don't need, even if I don't function, I can still be back next 3 years. So, no, we need to move that out.
So Johnny, you're running at LGs, that should be this year.
It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time under this present system that we have. Because I might get in there as an independent, and 50% get in there as an independent, and guess what? One political party wins everything else, and then what? Because they also put their political people as independents. So in an NDC of 30 councillors, I might be the one independent, and I'm wasting my time going to sit down listening to 29 political neophytes who just want to be pleased their leader and not please the constituent they belong to. And that's it. And that's it. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Each person should be elected to represent the area they come from.
We're going to go to Leonard, but there's something you said on this program that you have made me scared because you point to Craig's red short. I have green shorts. So what about if I wear a green short and you tell me I can't get
I just say,
Craig, over to you, Craig.
I don't know why the man attacking me.
Is he sure?
Because you say you're not.
I don't know why the man choose.
Should I wear my green short in this
I just
interview?
think you probably should on Earth Day or something to do with World Art.
I don't want you to call me a
I
PNC, you know,
come
I can't.
peacefully here, and the man attacking my
No, no, no.
physical appearance and my dress
You're a
and my
public,
mode of
you're a
dress.
public figure. What's on you know, David Hanks say he's a liquor. I don't want to call the word.
Like who?
Well, he, yeah,
Leonard is a liquor?
Yeah, I don't want to call the word. You got to take the heat.
But you see, David and him
know,
gotta
but-
be good because David is the lick and he is the slimer.
Oh, you talking about from erection to resurrection? You talking about that thing?
we can move
He
on.
took him up on that on this program. He took him up on that.
But David is one of those people as despicable as he can be.
Hey, I don't want to get sued.
I'm saying that even if I'm invited to be on a panel with him, and I'm involved in politics,
Would you be in a panel with him?
and I'm involved in politics, I would go because I would argue with him. His policies versus my policies.
Would you be in a panel with him? Right?
Anybody.
Anybody?
Mr.
That's
Kissoon.
that's
so
politics.
I can arrange a panel with him. And you.
No, I'm not into politics anymore. I'm
So
out of
you are not
politics.
into politics. He has taken a sabbatical.
Yeah, but what
What's
I'm
going on with the
saying,
two of
what
you?
I'm saying, a
When is the
politician.
sabbatical over?
Could be as soon as today. But I want to come back. I want to come back to something that you mentioned that is very
You know,
important.
yes,
And I didn't get a chance to follow up. You mentioned that the government has at their disposal all arms of media, and we've recently seen, and this is something I know Mr. Kissoon has written 4, 6, 10 articles on the demise of Starbuck News. One of the newspapers that was seen as being,
The new opposition.
well, you're calling it the new opposition, but way before that, the voice of the people, whether it's the middle class, your favorite MCC people, that can be taken into context. But it was an outlet for persons who had a difference of opinion. Now that is gone. The good thing about social media and the rise of social media and AI is that now you don't need to fund newspapers, television channels to get a following. The fact is right here, 60,000 persons tuning into a show gives you reach. And that is how Win and Muhammad in particular was able to appeal to the masses without having being able to properly use social media. He was not able to tap into the financial aspect of social media and get a method to push his information out there to the populace that he wanted it to go to. We know and we have seen that from the time you go on social media, something pops up in red from the PPP because they're able to use that advantage even on social media, whilst using our national coffers for the Chronicle, for DPI, and the other NCN and other channels that
No,
they
I think
use.
you're making a mistake there.
No. What I'm saying
The
is
Chronicle talks about what the minister's doing. That's some school open here. But it doesn't talk about the PPP, you know. You gotta be careful with that.
But you can differentiate between the PPP and government or what is happening now? No.
Of course, man.
No, because you know what? When campaigning was supposed to happen and the ministers were supposed to give up their job and allow the PSS to run the offices, they were in red opening schools.
no,
and
no,
going
no,
on
no,
the
There is
no,
no
no,
such
no.
thing. There is
It's
no
not
such
happening,
thing.
So-
man. No, come on.
What
There is
I
no
want-
such thing in our constitution, in our laws, in our.
But what about in the
No
world?
such
The
thing.
ministers don't
It
function.
Never, it
well.
never happened.
No, man. When it's
Ministers are there-
election, the president is going Air Force
Ministers
One
are there for
in the US.
policies. Now, what I'm saying is that what our young people have to be able to do is use social media to change this whole red versus green, we versus them. And that is what sometimes I am surprised and I am dismayed when I see younger, newer political parties continuing the same thing. Because I want to see a change in politics. I want to see good up and coming young PPP politicians coming out there who can speak to the entire Guyana. I want to see good up and coming PNC, ANUG politicians, WIN politicians, ANUG politicians coming up that can talk to the entire Guyana and not to a specific group of persons. That is what I want to say. We have to use that.
Mark, you know what's
resource
the
we have.
problem you're facing with that? Same thing AFC did when they joined with APNU in 2015 election. They allowed their personal hatred of the PPP to overcome the rationale of being able to say, let's
That's
sit
the
down,
problem I have
let's
with
sit down
civil
and talk.
society groups and the established
Yes,
news.
let's sit down and
You
talk.
allow your hatred to go too far.
That's right. To the demise of the nation and your political
And-
your political self.
The other thing about a lot of politicians is that they skin thin.
Well-
So if we come on this program
Man, politicians
and
getting skin
and
too
we
thin,
sit
man.
down and we say,
Oh my
for example,
goodness,
if me and
man.
Freddie having a discussion and we say, man, Aubrey make a wrong move and Aubrey make a childish move or Freddie like used the word foolish move.
Then we want to come on your program to
Aubrey
vex
not
with you.
vex with you for life.
Well,
It's on both sides of
instead
the
of coming
aisle.
to defend the move
Both sides of the aisle.
You
and
know,
tell the nation, this is my point. This is why I did what I did.
and that is what I said to people. David Hines called me what he called me.
What he called you?
And
So why you can't say it? Oh, what
and I would go on his program even though David Hines sit down alone with the camera full in his face
Politics 101.
and on his show, and then all he do is just bark and bark and bark. I would go on his program and defend what I believe
I'm arranging
and stuff
I'm
like
arranging-
that.
Yeah.
Right?
No, a 5-man panel, the two of you. Let me, but the operator said the time has come. Let me ask all three of you. I am too old, man. I'm a dinosaur. I ain't got time with politics. I had my days.
The memoirs are written.
Huh?
The memoirs are
He
written.
ain't
I ain't
writing
got
nothing, and every time
But
he come
you're
on a
his
show with
right-hand
somebody,
man.
Yeah.
he always asking them when you're writing, when you're writing,
yeah.
when you're writing.
Yeah.
I'm asking the three of you now. Local government election months away. Are you Can I see me sabbatical from
Well,
parties over
you're
here?
saying months away. I haven't seen any official
No, but
proclamation. I know
local government election is this
GCOM
year.
has. Well,
Are you
it was due
contesting?
since last year.
Are you contesting?
I haven't made a decision as yet.
There's a possibility.
There is a possibility, yes.
Jonathan, you may go throw your hat in local government thing.
As I explained earlier, it's
He
an
don't
absolute
believe in the
waste of
system.
my time to
So
do
you're
that.
not going. What about him? Red shirt
On
man.
the PPP platform.
I will be campaigning for the candidates, whomever they are, and wherever they end up.
What did he say on the platform?
Everyone knows what he said. But
Who
no,
said-
I
We
would
gotta
like
go.
to urge all
The last
young
word.
people. Young
We
people.
gotta go.
Local government election, come out with the same fervor that you come out for general elections, and speak to your people. Look at the issues that are facing them and try to be the ones to address those issues, because the big boys can run central government, but at the village level, at the NDC level, at the township level, you will be the ones that the people are looking up
Jonathan, the guy signal our time has come. What's you have to say?
If you want to go to the local government elections, by all means, it's an opportunity for you to get your toe wet into politics. Don't expect too much out of it, but it's an opportunity for you to start learning how politics work in Guyana, and it's a great opportunity for young people to get involved in it and go ahead and do it. But I will end off by saying I'm not very happy with our government. I understand why they did what they did with the Cuban government and the medical brigade. I understand why that has happened, but I'm not very happy about it. I'll close off with that.
On that note, we will bring this Monday evening episode of the Freddie Kissoon Show with co-host Leonard to an end. You've been watching a very animated discussion on Cuba and politics in Guyana in general with two of our guests that we have no qualms in saying have a blank check on this program. They have a blank check to appear anytime they want to and to recommend anyone they want to come on to this program because they have never said no to us the past 3.5 years. Our guests have been Dr. Mark France, medical doctor and one of the founders of the opposition party, A New and United Guyana, ANUG, and also a founding member who has now left ANUG, civil society activist Jonothan Yearwood. Please have a pleasant Monday evening, whatever is left of it. We will see you on Wednesday night. Take care. Bye-bye. Catch you later.